To the Select Board meeting for Tuesday, February 8th, 2022. We're via Zoom tonight. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner. Walpole Media YouTube on the local cable access or on the local cable access channel. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, and public participation in any public hearing conducted during this meeting shall be by remote means. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. All votes will be by roll call vote. So as we always do, I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag.
The flag,
Pledge allegiance
United
to the
States of
flag
America,
of the United States of America and to
one
the
nation,
republic for which it stands,
indivisible,
one nation,
one nation,
justice
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and justice for all.
justice for all.
So first up tonight, we have Jody Cuneo, vote to accept and sign the general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2022 bonds. Jody, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So we went out to borrow 54,000. Sorry, hold on a second. $54,625,000. We got 7 bids, and the range was between 2.67% and 2.82%. Of course, we went with the lowest interest rate at Robert Beard Company. We received $3,737,000 in premiums, of which $3,100,000 was used to reduce the cost of the borrowing project.
That's great.
Yeah, so what you have in front of you, I'm going to have Lisa walk through. Do you have any questions first?
I would just comment that I'm glad that we went out to bid when we did. I think that we got a good rate, and Jim sent around a document sort of showing how much we saved over time by getting the better rate. So, I know that we've saved the taxpayers, I don't remember the exact number, but, $9 million over the course of the borrowing. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, sorry, forgot to mention that.
Okay, so I'm sure you've all done this before, so you have in front of you the 23 individual bonds that will need to be signed. And actually, before we do that, you probably should take the vote before you sign anything. That should be in your packet too. You got it?
Does anybody have any questions before Glenn reads the 3 pages of bond required information?
So we've actually checked with bond counsel, and they said that we can, I just want to pull up the email. I'm prepared. Where is it?
Right there. They just came.
No, that was the other one. I'm sorry. Okay. We can make the motion that says, quote, I move that the forms of votes presented to this meeting be adopted as written and incorporated into the minutes of this meeting in full. That way you don't have to read the whole 3 pages out loud.
Okay, so I'll say so moved with that
Second.
exact wording.
Second,
And I heard a second from Jim.
So
Is
I'm
it-
just wondering, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Jody, should Glenn, as the clerk, just make that motion just to make sure that it goes with everything?
Yeah, let's do that.
Certainly,
I'll
I'll
make-
retract my motion.
Thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
make the motion that the as worded by Jody. Do you want to say it again, Jody?
You know what? I'm going to email this to you.
Sure.
Is that okay?
That should be okay.
Then you'll have it right in front of you.
I have 3 different emails, so I'll have them all.
Oh, the one I have on file is at Gmail. Glenn
Yeah,
have
That's
email?
fine. You got it.
So just so the public knows, in the past, we've read the clerk has read a multi-page document that talks about each bond, the interest rate, the amount due, the year, on and on and on and on and on. So this is the short version, which is great. All of the details are available if anybody would like to take a look at those.
And I can make the motion that Jody sent me. I move that the forms of votes presented to this meeting be adopted as written and incorporated into the minutes of this meeting in full.
Jim, would you like to make a second?
Second.
So we have a motion, a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Ben,
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Anything else to do on the bonds?
So obviously, after the meeting, the clerk needs to sign this vote, and then you will sign the individual certificates, bond certificates, as well as the tax certificate and the continuing disclosure certificate. It's all the same things that you've signed in the past.
That's great. I'll be in tomorrow. I mentioned that earlier. Glenn is coming in tomorrow and Jim O'Neill is coming in tomorrow. So we'll get all those signatures for you. As
The money will be in the bank February 17th.
Okay.
So Mark, I just have a couple of things to add, if you don't mind, as we wrap this up. So I think you briefly mentioned there, we had the bond council or bond investors run a couple of different scenarios because I was curious as to how much we actually saved. So we estimated to the voters back in the fall that the interest rate would be about 3.5%. Jody mentioned it came in at 267. So overall, if you look at the 30-year life, I think you briefly touched upon this. If you compare those numbers side by side, we estimate that we saved about 7.9 million in change over what we had projected back in September, October timeframe. I'm really pleased with this. The decision to go out and borrow early has really paid off. That $50 million towards the middle school project is going to go a long way to getting to at least get us more than halfway through that project. And who knows where the bids are going to come in, but Jody and Lisa have been great. This is the largest single borrowing the town's ever done. It's complicated, and we made it through successfully. And I'm really pleased. And I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to go out back when you guys discussed this in November, December, so early. I know it was a large amount to talk about, but it paid off.
Great. I agree with everything you just said. So it's been great. Any other comments or questions by the board? Seeing none, I'll just say thank you, Jody and Lisa. Appreciate all the work.
Welcome.
Always thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Next up, Town Clerk Elizabeth Gaffey. We're going to vote on apportionment of the RTMs. Welcome, Liz.
Good evening. It's nice to see all of you.
Good to see you.
So tonight, as you know, yearly in February, I am required by charter to apportion the representative town meeting members. So using the town census numbers and the formula provided in the charter, I am recommending that we keep the apportionment the same as we had last year and request that the board support that recommendation, and I'm open for any questions that you may have.
I'll open it up for questions. Anybody have any questions?
Okay, I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Liz.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you about the Cedar Junction population. So what year, maybe you can fill me in a little background there, when that happened, or has that been the case for a long time that they've been included in the apportionment?
Yes, because I did a little digging for that for this year. And honestly, the number's been 550 since I took over, and I believe since 2010 federal census. So when I called the Department of Corrections, they have a weekly report of the prisoners that are there, but we're down again for 550. And the prisoners are counted as residents. And the only way you could get an exemption to counting them as a resident is through having an exemption done through legislation. So they do count. I don't think we always have 550 in there, but that's our number. So that does help precinct 5 out because I know that they don't vote, but that's also, I have probably 550 people in each precinct that probably don't vote.
Yeah.
So it seems to be okay because otherwise the numbers would really be skewed, that they wouldn't have the same kind of representation. So this way it's a lot, it's more by counting them, it keeps the town even.
Sure, and it hasn't been an issue as far as we
No.
know.
No, and so I checked on that before I did the apportionment. I was calling around. It's a little tough. The state's still, working from home. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to get people to get that. But so they gave that to me, and that was fine. I think they were
Right.
glad I asked the question, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you anticipating it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other
That's all.
comments or questions? Jim, would you make a motion?
I will move to remain with the present apportionment as recommended by the town clerk.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
So a motion, a second, we'll do a roll call vote. Ben? Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Mark? Aye. Liz, since we have you here, I know that you've
Sure.
been working with the state to figure out exactly which streets are in which precincts. Where do you stand with all that?
So it originally looked like the way we were going to have it, and it was going to be pretty understandable. So at the moment, for the town election, the precinct lines have moved a little bit. So it's not too bad. It looked like it involved every precinct except 6, but I need them to confirm that. The line changes weren't that many. Now, as it's turning out, I've been told that there's going to be some sub precincts, like a 2A and a 5A. And so we're working on trying to legislate that to move back to where it really belongs in 3 and 4. So it seems, the way I'm understanding it is that our lines changed in 2020, but the legislative lines that they used are still the 2010 lines. So that's what produced a 2A and a 5A. There's not that many households that it seemed to, the word I'm looking for, seemed to cover. But, right, exactly. Thank you, Jim. But so on one street in particular, I have 3 precincts there, like a 3, a 2, and a 2A. And like, I'm feeling bad for those neighbors and the representation that they would get. So working with the state, I saw them, the powers that be last week at our conference, and they're willing to work it all with us. We are representative town meetings, so we're really the first ones on the list to make sure it's right. I did make them aware that my nomination papers are available for the Rtms to pull the papers, and I do want to get out the incumbent letters for people that don't need to obtain the 25 signatures. I think everybody RTM-wise sits nicely, but if I don't end up moving a precinct line, I don't have to run the full complement of all the precinct RTMs. I'd only have to run the third whose terms are up. So I'm really waiting for that. They've been volleying back and forth with me, changes, no changes. I worked hard with that last week before to get rid of the first set they sent out. They sent me a second set that I just received yesterday, and I resent them. I went through that all day today, so I resent that to them. So I'm hoping within a week, they will have superimposed their precinct lines on top of our precinct lines, and hopefully, we'll make out okay without the sub precincts. The sub precincts will only be for state and federal elections. They would not impact the local election.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Liz? Seeing none. Thanks, Liz. I think you're doing a great job, and hopefully all the juggling of streets gets wrapped up quickly.
I know. Thank you, Mark, and thank you for your support on the RTM apportionment. I think it's a good pick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Liz.
Thanks, Liz.
Next up is interview and vote to appoint Christian Oster to the Veteran Services Committee. I think Kristen is on the call. Welcome, Christian.
Having me.
So we've seen the information that you sent. Why don't you give us a minute or two of any other information you'd like us to know?
Sure. I grew up in Quincy, Mass, but my wife went to high school here in Walpole. My father-in-law is in the fire department, and I moved out here after I came home from Iraq, and I immediately fell in love with the town. And so I've been wanting to give back for a while now, and I just changed careers. I work from home, so it's a lot easier for me to attend meetings and things like that. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said they couldn't hear me.
No, I think it was just
No, we
background
can't.
noise.
Okay. So yeah, I've lived in Walpole for 12 years and I absolutely love it here. My kids go to school here and I want to be able to give back to the community. And as a veteran, it's a subject obviously that's near and dear to my heart.
Great. First of all, I'd say thank you for your service. And
you.
Also thank you for volunteering. One of the things I often say is I think one of the things that makes Walpole a great town is the number of people willing to give their time as a volunteer. I think that really is a great thing, and really appreciate your doing that. So let me open it up to see if anybody else has any comments or questions.
I think the chairman nailed it, and we're glad to have you. Appreciate you being here. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Jim O'Neill. Thank you for volunteering and really appreciate that. And I can't help but wondering whether you or Chairman Gallivan have the better sports paraphernalia behind you on the wall here. It's close, I gotta say. So,
Well, as a lifelong Boston fan, I grew up only about 7 miles from Fenway Park, and now I live about 5 miles away from Gillette Stadium. So,
wow.
I told my wife if we move again, it's going to have to be a lot closer to the Garden.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Jim, would you make a motion?
I will. I move to appoint Christian Oster to the Veteran Services Committee as a regular member.
We have a second. So we have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Christian, you don't have to stay and watch the rest of the meeting unless you really want to. So,
Maybe I'll stick around for a little bit more.
next up, we have vote to appoint the following candidates to the position of firefighter paramedic: Michael Curran, Michael Shea, Jason Grant, and Joseph LaFerriere. And first, we'll start off with Tim Bailey, Fire Chief. Welcome, Tim.
Welcome to the chair and members of the board. Can you hear me?
Yes. And we're running a few minutes early, so if you're not quite ready, we can circle back in 10 minutes if you want.
No, I have all my candidates here and they're all ready to go. So just a little background on how we got to this point. So we notified 20 potential candidates that had applied to us. And of the 20 candidates, we reached out to 14 responded back to us. And we interviewed those candidates, and I'm before you this evening with the 4 that we feel would be the best fit for us here at the fire department. They're all in various stages of their paramedic program, some in the early stages and some finishing up on the back end of it, which is okay because of the lag time that we have with the fire academy that is still a problem for us here. I did check into the fire academy status. And the Fire Academy for Bridgewater has a couple of slots left in the August class, as does the Stowe Academy. And then we have the Springfield Academy, but because of its distance, really doesn't play into us with our candidates because it's an hour-and-a-half ride each way for the candidates for 10 weeks, and it becomes a little bit problematic. If I had a candidate that lived out closer to the Springfield Academy, that would work out better, but we're still ironing through some of that right now. After the August class, the Stowe class will be filling for September, but the Bridgewater campus will not be filling again until November. So we are trying to expedite them through their physicals and their PAT over the next 2 weeks so that we can get them into either the August vacancies or some of those September vacancies at the Stowe Academy. And with that, I'll bring in the first candidate, Michael Curran. Michael's a 2016 graduate of Walpole High School. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice from Norwich University. He is a call firefighter EMT currently with the Medfield Fire Department, and he is working for a private ambulance company while he's attending paramedic school. Michael Curran.
Great. Welcome, Michael.
Everyone. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Hi.
So we've read the information that was submitted. So why don't you take a couple of minutes and give us a little more background on anything you didn't include in your paperwork?
Okay, sure. So I'm from Walpole. I was born and raised here. I went to Walpole High School. I played football at Walpole. I was the captain my senior year. Played for Barry Greener, and I actually know some of the guys who were on the fire department now through football. I went to Norwich University, where I also played football, and I was a 4-year member of the Corps of Cadets. For anyone that's not familiar with Norwich, it's a military school in Vermont. And for 4 years, we lived a militarized lifestyle where we would train in the mornings, we'd do PT, we wore uniforms, went to formation, made our beds, that kind of a structured lifestyle. I got a bachelor's in criminal justice. I wanted to be a police officer, and through relationships with plenty of other police officers, they kind of steered me in a different direction, and I wanted to have another job that was impactful and where I could be a member of the community and involved in people's lives directly. So I thought that the fire service would be a great spot for me. And that led me to getting a job right now with Fallon Ambulance that operates out of Quincy. And we do 911 coverage and 911 service and in-facility transports for hospitals in the greater Boston and Metro West area. And I'm currently working for them right now, as well as attending paramedic school in Cambridge for Pro EMS, the Center for Medics. And I'm going to graduate there at the end of August, early September, and then we'll take my tests with the state and the National Registry. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell right now.
Great, thanks for the update. Let me just see if any of the other select board members have any comments or questions. Looks like we don't. I'll just say we welcome you aboard and look forward to seeing you once you're active.
Thank you very much, sir.
Jim, would you make a motion?
I will. Excuse me. I move to appoint Michael Curran to the position of firefighter paramedic.
We have a second?
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Mark? Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
The next candidate I have before you is Michael Shea. Michael is also a Walpole resident. He's a 2017 graduate of Walpole High School. He has gained experience working as an EMT for the private ambulance company, and he is also attending paramedic school. Michael Shea.
Good evening.
Welcome, Michael. We've seen your paperwork. Is there anything else you'd like us to know about yourself?
My paperwork was pretty good. I went to Rhode Island College for criminal justice. Due to COVID, I stopped that. I didn't want to do the online, and I got into EMS, and that's brought me here. I'm in paramedic school through Brewster's program at CMTI. I will finish that in August, and then I'll have ride time and testing. Other than that, I think that's about it with education. I worked for Brewster for 6 months full time. When I started school with the schedule, I wanted a more flexible schedule. So I cut hair at Gus's barbershop in Norwood. Gus is very flexible with me. So doing that. Anything else?
No, that's great. Let me see if any of the other select board members have any comments or questions. Seeing there's not, I'll just say, I think you're going to be a great fit for the Walpole Fire Department. Looking forward to you getting on board. Jim, would you make a motion?
I'd be happy to. I will move to appoint Michael Shea to the position of firefighter paramedic.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you once you're active.
Thank you for your time.
Sure, thank you.
Next before you, I have Jason Grant. Jason is a 2015 graduate of Blue Hills Regional Technical High School. He has a bachelor's degree from Bridgewater State University. He also has experience as an EMT with a private ambulance company and has worked for the last almost 3 years at South Shore Hospital as an EMT as well, gaining valuable experience. And he too is finishing up his paramedic school as we speak. Jason Grant.
Hello.
Welcome, Jason. Why don't you give us a little more info about yourself?
My name is Jason. I'm from Dedham. I went to high school at Blue Hills in Canton. I finished my bachelor's at Bridgewater State, and I've been working for South Shore Hospital over the past 2.5 years, and finishing up paramedic school right now. Scheduled a test out next month for the paramedic, and excited for this opportunity. And
Great, thanks. Let me see if any of the other select board members have any comments or questions. Seeing none, I'll just say we look forward to you joining the fire department and getting on board. Looks like you have a great background for the fire department. Jim, would you make a motion?
Certainly. Motion to appoint Jason Grant to the position of firefighter paramedic.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Have a wonderful evening.
The last candidate that I have before you, Mr. Chair, is Joseph Lafreniere. Joseph is a 2014 graduate of Algonquin Regional High School. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Nutrition from Framingham State University. He too has experience as an EMT while working for private ambulance and is in the final stages of his paramedic certification. Joseph Lafreniere.
Joseph, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Why don't you give us a minute or two of some more of your background?
So my background, I work as an EMT right now for Brewster Ambulance Service out in Southborough. I've been doing that for 2.5 years. I'm also a paramedic student. Finishing up my ride time, splitting between Framingham and Brockton, and getting ready to take the test for paramedic.
Sounds great. Let me see if any of the other select board members have any comments or questions. Seeing there's none, I'll just say we're looking forward to your joining the department and getting started. So I wish you the best of luck. Jim, would you make a motion?
Yes, motion to appoint Joseph Lafreniere to the position of firefighter paramedic.
And seconded.
So we have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to meeting you in person someday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all of the candidates for this evening, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tim. That went well. We're looking forward to getting the firefighters on board. And just for the people at home, it's a real process. So they get hired, they go through testing, they go to the academy. So it's not like we can hire a new firefighter generally and they can start right away. It's a process. So we're looking forward to them coming on board over the course of the year.
Great, thank you. And we thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, next up is new business, discussion and vote to sign a license agreement with Jalapenos Grill for the patio area in the rear of 960 to 962 Main Street. Just for people at home, during COVID, we've been trying to help the restaurants have outdoor space and use space that normally wouldn't be available. So they've been using the space behind the restaurant. I think it's worked out very well. And now we're trying to formalize that agreement. Jim, would you like to jump in and give us the background?
That I've been working on with Ricardo and his representative since just before COVID. He's looking to expand it permanently, as you stated, and sign a license agreement with the town to utilize this space on a long-term basis. So what you have before you is the license agreement, which will allow Jalapenos to move forward with a multi-year usage of that property and back where he's currently using for his outdoor dining. I believe he wants to set up a seasonal bar out back there and more or less formalize it. So his attorneys have reviewed this agreement. Our attorneys have reviewed it. We've updated the dates accordingly, and it's ready for your consideration. Right now, that space is not really used for anything except for his dining area. And there's plenty of parking out back there. We haven't received any complaints whatsoever over the last 2 summers while he's done this. So I'd recommend favorable action by the board.
Let me open it up for any comments or questions.
I just want to say real quick, Mr. Chairman, that this is the kind of thing that we can do, that supporting our businesses and making downtown a more attractive place. And I'm glad that Jalapenos is bringing this idea to us, and I'm happy to support it. And I'm hoping other businesses in the area, in downtown or anywhere in Walpole, see what he's doing. And if we can work with anybody else, I'm happy to do that too.
Thanks, Glenn. Any other comments or questions? Jim, would you make a motion?
Sure. Motion to sign license agreement with Jalapenos Grill, Inc. for patio area in rear of 960 to 962 Main Street.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Mark? Aye. I think that's going to work out great. All right, moving on. Cable access fund request. Jim?
Sure. So the request you have in front of you is for $55,000 total. That account currently has over, I believe it's 323,000 in it. We haven't used it in some time. There's 2 separate requests here, one for $50,000 to undertake some of our network improvements. We have submitted a CARES funding request from that, from reimbursement. However, we're unsure if we received the materials and equipment after the deadline. I believe it was after January 1st. So we are not sure if we're going to qualify for that. So I more or less wanted to have this as a backup. And again, we haven't used it in some time, and I wanted to see those funds get spent and used as they're only allowed to be used on IT infrastructure improvements and anything related to the cable. So this certainly falls into that category. The second request here is for $5,000 for a new monitoring system in the select board meeting room. You may recall a few months back, you had Brian Jarvison to conduct a presentation on the middle school project, and it was very glitchy. This would upgrade the whole system down there and allow us to have better controlled remote meetings down there. So total request is for $50,000, and I'll take any question you may have.
I'll just start out with the comment that I think that, the fact that we put in our own wide area network long ago was a great thing, really helped us out, tying all the schools and buildings together. And I think with the state of Zoom and the amount of, 15 years ago, we never would have assumed so much video would be happening, Zoom meetings, all those kind of things, kids accessing media in real time. So I think it's great to be able to upgrade the access points along the way. I think that's a good thing. And anything we can do to make that conference room more usable for us during our meetings is a great thing. So any other comments or questions?
If I can just interject real quick, I'm still a little bit new to this, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to ask you this question earlier, Jim, but can you just give me a quick overview of the Cable Access Fund? What are the sources of funding? How predictable are they, and how much is in there now, and what do we typically spend it on? I know the areas that we're allowed to spend it on.
So right now we have 2 separate accounts. One has just about $1.1 million in it, and that's the funds that actually provide for the general operating budget of the Walpole Media Corp. We get about around $70,000 per quarter from both Comcast and from Verizon. The funds I'm asking, the account I'm asking for expenditure out of is not that account. We currently have another account where we receive, it's between $14,000 and $24,000 a year. We've been receiving it for the life of these cable contracts. I believe they're each about 10-year contracts. And we generally don't spend them because a lot of these IT issues are addressed either through Walpole Media Corp or through the capital budget. But this one came up, and I wanted to just more or less have a backup in case this CARES funding source falls through. Did that address your question?
Yeah, it does. How much is in that second account right now?
Just about last time I looked, I believe it was about 323,000.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have one more.
Ben?
Yeah, I just point out that there's multiple uses of the so-called select board meeting room. So while we certainly appreciate it, and we use it during our meetings, FinCom, planning board has all their meetings in there with all the media that they need to support their meetings. So I think it'll be well worth the money to put into it for ease of use.
Thanks, Ben. I do think of it as ours, but technically it's probably called the Finance Committee meeting room, and it is used all the time. So yeah, although I was thinking mainly of us, it will get well used. So thanks for pointing that out. Jim, would you make a motion?
I will. First motion is to authorize the IT department to use cable access funds to undertake network improvements in the amount of $50,000.
Seconded.
You have a motion, a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Mark? Aye. Next.
The second motion is to authorize the town administrator to use cable access funds to purchase and install a new monitor for the, I'm going to call it the Finance Committee meeting room, in an amount not to exceed $5,000.
Seconded.
So you have a motion, a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Okay, great. Next up, vote to award RFQ 2022-09 Walpole High School feasibility study to Tapea Architects, the amount of $138,250. Jim?
Sure. So as you've stated, we're requesting an appropriation here for $138,250. You may recall that just before COVID, we had an appropriation of $400,000 through town meeting for a feasibility study of the Walpole High School, basically to study the building, figure out if we needed an addition onto there or a renovated space onto there, and if so, where should we put that? So we put a hold on most of those larger scale projects during COVID, and we've since resumed these types of projects. So this is ready for award now. We did receive multiple proposals here. Mike Fisher, Bridget, and I think a few members of the school department reviewed the proposals along with Patrick in my office, myself, and listened to some of the interviews, and we have agreed to go with Tapea Architects. I've successfully negotiated an amount of $138,250. You may recall that Tapea is the same firm that we're working with on the middle school project. They're familiar with us. They've been with us for a few years now. I'm pleased with that, obviously. They know how we work here. They know how our purchasing system works, our PO system. They know the key town officials here in town. So I'm pleased that we can continue to work with them on another project. I would note that we will likely be hiring a project manager on this. I know generally for a project for just $138,000, we generally don't hire a project manager, but because this could grow to a $10, $20, $30 million project, we thought it would be wise to bring a project manager on in the near future to just begin to work us through this whole process. So it's going to be a multi-year process. And once they come back with it, we'll probably have to go with more of a formal design on this thing. And then if so, go forward with a plan to move forward with some of the areas identified. So that's about it for me. I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments for Jim?
No questions, Jim. I think you explained that, really, really clearly. And for folks who have followed this since we discussed it at town meeting, I think you covered all that background very well also. And also, I would just highlight again the length of this process. We know that the middle school is getting started now. That's something that started, as far as I knew, 6 years ago, and even more, close to 10 years ago, that whole process. So while this process of looking at the high school may not take 10 years, it's certainly in the very interim stages. This isn't something that's going to happen next year or even the year after that. So as we get moving through this process, we often have to start these projects in capital expenditures and run them in parallel as we're moving through. It's not feasible to have one project, wait till it's completely over with, and then start another project. We need to start investigations in parallel with other projects. And so that's what's happening here. So I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to get it kickstarted now, start poking around and see what the needs might be there. And so, the initial investment of $100,000
is well spent, in my opinion. So I appreciate your work on it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Ben.
and at the risk of repeating of what some of Ben said, this is in the very early stages. It is a well thought out process. If anybody listening has questions or concerns, I mean, they can reach out to me or any other select board members, and we can attempt to answer them. But again, we're exploring the possibilities related to the high school. It's a prudent thing to do, and again, it's a multi-year process. So here we are in the early stages, and I think it's going in the right direction.
Thanks, Glenn. Jim, would you make a motion?
Sure. Motion to award RFQ number 2022-09, Walpole High School feasibility study to Tape Architects in the amount of $138,250 and authorize the town administrator to sign the contract and all related documents.
Seconded.
To have a motion and a second, I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Next up, 2022 Springtown meeting article and fiscal year 23 budget update. Jim?
Sure. I wanted to take this opportunity to let the board know that we've gone forward. I've gone forward with finalizing the budget message. It was taped and it is currently on the website. So anybody who is interested in listening to me talk through the budget and the budget message is more than welcome to go up there and click on it. We also have the transcript of the message up there. The budget's balanced, ready to go for the Finance Committee's review. Their first meeting is February 14th on Valentine's Day. I'm sure that's how they want to spend their Valentine's Day with me and the rest of the committee. And we're ready for their review. I've worked closely with the school officials to kind of bridge the gap and what they've identified as kind of a shortfall from where I was initially about a month or two ago, prior to receiving some of the insurance numbers and the state aid numbers. We've bridged that down to definitely a manageable amount, and we're ready to go on that end. As far as the articles, I'd like to quickly run through the articles with you. I don't have a formal warrant for you. Lauren and I continue to work through a couple of them along with Landis, mostly focused on some of the stormwater bylaw change that's there. It's very wordy, and we're trying to scale it down a little bit. It's very long, so I will have a draft within the next week or two, I expect. So Article 2 and 3 relate to the Personnel Board articles. Those are the salary schedule and the bylaws that are on there each and every year. Personnel Board is moving forward with the 2.75% COLA increase for non-union personnel. Article 4 is the FY22 budget adjustment article. At this time, I don't really know if any adjustments are going to be needed, but that's pretty much a standard article that's on there. Article 5 is the FY23 budget. Articles 6, 7, 8, and 9 relate to sewer and water. They are the in-year budget adjustment articles for fiscal year 22 and the FY23 budgets for both sewer and water. Article 10 is the snow and ice deficit. Article 11 is the stabilization fund. Article 12 is OPEB. I'm not sure if we're going to have much to act on as far as stabilization, snow and ice, and OPEB, but I figured we'd leave them on there in case we do need to take some action on there. Article 13 is the unpaid bills. Article 14, as I previously mentioned, is the funding of the Walpole Media Corp fiscal year 23 budget. I haven't received a request from them yet, but I do expect one over the next month or so. Article 15 is an old borrowing rescind for 3 different articles, two from 2018 and one from 2013. The expended amount that was authorized wasn't fully spent, so Jody's asked to clean up the books and rescind those. And Article 16 relates to the Personnel Board. At this time, the Personnel Board isn't fully staffed. It has about 3 people on it. One person recently resigned. And I did a survey back in September of the area managers. A lot of the towns don't have personnel boards at this time. And what this board is seeking to do is take the authority of the Personnel Board and place it with the Select Board in this office. The Personnel Board was established in 1954. They've certainly done a lot of good things over the years, but I think it's time to take that and centralize it to this office. They've worked with us over the years to set the COLAs, but there's no reason why your board can't set the COLAs. I provide the recommendation, and we serve along those lines. So I know there's going to be probably some talk and discussion about why are you doing this? I'm actually, after this discussion tonight, I'm going to go forward and have a discussion with the personnel board, explain the rationale behind it and why it's being proposed at this time. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. Article 17 requests that the town meeting authorize town officials to lease 3 spaces in town. Those spaces are Fisher School roof, Old Post Road roof, and the Johnson Middle School / Robbins Road parking lot. These are all for solar canopies and solar panels to go on the buildings. This is something that Mike Fisher's worked with Patrick and David Ruggiero, our green director, to kind of move us forward and use the green initiative that we undertook about 2 years ago to, one, it's going to cut down on our electric bills and it's going to cut back on our pollution. I'm pleased to see that they're moving forward with it. So this is just an authorization to use the space. And again, this is one of those that I want to make sure that the wording is correct with Lauren, because it's a kind of a little bit of a gray area as to who controls that space. Dennis and I have gone back and looked and saw that it was given to the town. So to us, the town means the select board. We just want to verify that it's not the school committee. Either way, the school committee is supportive of these initiatives, and we're going to make it happen and present it to town meeting. And lastly is the, as I previously mentioned, the stormwater management bylaws, updating those. And so in all, we have 18 articles together, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions for Jim? Looks like a good group of warrant articles.
It does. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the warrant as it's currently worded is to have a town meeting on the Turco Field at 10 a.m. on Saturday, May 7th, with a rain date of May 8th, Sunday.
Okay, that sounds good. Jim, would you like to make a motion?
Do we need a motion on this one?
Were you looking for a vote, Jim, or is this more just?
No, just I wanted to provide you with an overview of everything and let you know if you have any questions or anything. But if there's no questions, we're going to continue to move forward with this. And hopefully, I think definitely by your next meeting, we should have a warrant ready for you to sign and for us to publish. I know a few members of the Finance Committee has already reached out to me, and a couple of members of the public have asked, is it finalized yet? So next meeting, I think we'll be good to go.
All right, thanks, Jim.
So, no motion necessary.
Thanks. Consent agenda, Jim?
Sure. Motion to accept with gratitude the following donations. Excuse me. The Olmsted Family to Ambulance Gift Account, SM LaRusso and Sons Incorporated to Veteran Services Hometown Hero Program, and multiple donors to the Pond/Lodge Program.
We have a second. So we have a motion, a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of January 25th, 2022 as presented in our packet.
Seconded.
Motion, a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And Mark? Aye. Next up, Town Administrator's update.
All right, I got about 4 items here. Just I want to provide an update on. First one being is the Johnson Middle School building. We're working with Compass, Patrick and I, to update the building study that was completed back in 2013. And it was also updated by TAP A in 2020. So that's going to be updated by Compass. I expect the updated building assessment will include the technical report that highlights the life cycle of the various systems, industry standards, and other information that will be needed to justify what we need to do going forward, in a timeline of the needed replacement and/or repairs that need to be done to that building, and also will include an overview of potential reuse options. I expect the report may take up to 6 to 8 months, hopefully sooner, but I want to give us a little leeway on that one. Obviously, we have some time with the middle school not set to open until 2024 at the earliest. Once complete, I'd like to present that report to the board and ask for you for some direction as to what you want to do. Do you want to move forward with some of these recommendations? Do you want to listen to some of the interested parties, rec department, school department, housing authority, whoever it may be, and let them petition for it? Or basically, I want to get this report done and then move forward with what you want to do next once you are able to read it and digest it. 2023 budget, I mentioned that briefly. We are set to go. I would ask one thing that in the budget message towards the end, I highlight the sewer and water budgets. I'm concerned with the sewer and water budgets, enough so for me to mention it in the budget message and ask for the select board and the finance committee to take an active role in the rate setting process. I'm worried that for the second year in a row, we're going to need to dip into retained earnings to ensure that sorry, the budget finishes balanced. And those retained earnings are getting a little low. And I think I know it's because the rates have been artificially low over the last few years. So I'd ask that the board get involved in that. And when the rate setting comes up, really take an active role along with FinCom and review the numbers to ensure that, yes, we don't like to add to the cost of the water, but the costs are being offset by the rates being set artificially low because we're using retained earnings. We use retained earnings for our capital improvement plan. So if we spend down retained earnings, we won't be able to continue to keep up with the demands of an aging infrastructure. Rick and Scott have done a great job along with the current commissioners and past commissioners of doing this, but I don't want to see that retained earnings spent down. So if you could just keep that in mind. I'm going to be putting together a memo for the sewer and water commissioners to kind of consider asking them to take on to review and decide to eventually accept a policy relating to their retained earnings. I'm currently starting to draft it, and I'd love your input on it along with FinCom. So just something to keep in mind.
Hey, Jim, let me jump in real quick, and then I may ask Glenn to jump in. I am also worried about the reserves. I think it's important to build those reserves for sewer and water because they have an awful lot of infrastructure that needs to be replaced over time. And I have heard Glenn mention that and Bill Abbott mention that. So Glenn, would you like to give more clarity to that?
Yeah, I do. And I think one of the things that strikes me as being a significant factor is our projected usage, because really we set our budget based on how much we project people, how much water we project people to use and how much water the town actually sells to people. And for a lot of years, we were significantly underestimating what people were going to use, and then they used more than we estimated, and so we had all this extra money coming in, and then so we eventually set the rates, set the projections to where they needed to be. So that put us on. It really meant that we needed to use retained earnings more than we had in the past, and so what we need to do is project in the best way possible, and to really, if you need to raise the rates to get to the point where we don't have to dip into retained earnings. It is allowed. Retained earnings is something that the Department of Revenue does let you do. It's not against the rules, but like Jim said, it's discouraged. And if we can fund really just through the usage, that's the goal, not through excess retained earnings. And the retained earnings should be used for capital projects. So we do have an aging infrastructure. We have 100-year-old pipes in the ground, and that's for the people who are getting their water through old unlined cast iron pipes. They're going to want us to replace those sooner than later, and we have a good program to do that, but we can't do it all at once, and so we need to keep up. And so this is I do need to see some of the numbers that Jim comes up with, and I'm happy to take an active role in the process. I really am.
Thanks, Glenn.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions? All right.
Okay, just two more items. Board of Health vaccine clinic. This is more or less to thank Melissa, Board of Health, and Trish for their assistance. So the Board of Health is going to be holding a COVID-19 clinic over the next few weeks at the Old Town Hall, where the police station was formerly located. They're hosting one on February 12th at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. for ages 5 to 11. All those attending the clinic must pre-register prior to attending the clinic. They can register on the town website. Melissa's also posted on Facebook. To register. It's really simple. She said she only had less than 20 people signed up right now. I know before Christmas, I think they had about 500 who did it. So I know a lot of those children aren't eligible for their second shot yet, but something to keep in mind. So after the clinic this week, the Board of Health, Melissa, Trish are going to do an after action report to determine what actions, what items need to be changed to make the future clinics work better. This is really one of the first times we're using the old building. I can tell you Don Anderson and building maintenance have done a great job kind of refurbishing some of those rooms so they're functional upstairs and some of the upper floors. So I just want to thank the Board of Health. They've shown a lot of leadership with this. Melissa and Trish, as always, have been great to work with. They've worked hard. They're working on weekends. So just appreciative of those efforts there. And last item is tax exemption update. A few weeks ago, you may recall that we talked about a senior means tested residential exemption. Dennis has been working hard on this one to kind of figure out how do we proceed with this. He's identified 8 towns that have adopted this exemption. There's been some other towns such as Lexington, Brookline, and Natick. They've considered it, but they've decided not to enact it. So currently, there's no option to adopt the senior tax exemption, which means we can't just go to town meeting and accept Mass General Law, whatever. To do this, we have to submit special legislation to our state delegation, ask for a home rule petition to adopt this exemption. Each home rule petition qualifies that Dennis has been able to identify are slightly different. And there's a couple of similar items such as the age, 65 years or older. They've lived in town either 5 or 10 consecutive years. It's residential property. They must receive a circuit breaker money as part of their income tax credit. And there's an application to file each year for September 1st. So the exemption amount does vary by town. So Dennis is working through this, as I previously stated. He will eventually probably need to bring in someone to work with him. He's trying to figure out what other towns have, who other towns have worked with to identify, yeah, there's 100 or 50 or 40 people that would qualify into this. Here's the likely tax impact, and here's where you would make up this tax impact. So a great example is if you have $100,000 worth of tax exemptions, some part of the population, whether it be the top 10% or if you spread it out amongst the rest of the residential taxpayers, would have to come up and pay that balance. But ultimately, that will be the board's decision. So I'd like to tell the board, we're working on this. We're going to give you a report once we kind of hammered all this down with which 8 towns have done it, which towns have explored it and decided not to do it. And then I'd suggest that you get with the Board of Assessors, figure out, yeah, let's go ahead and do a little bit deeper dive, maybe hire a firm, which I'm sure we can cover as part of my budget or Dennis's budget. And then ultimately, if you want to proceed with it, we can go to town meeting and petition for special legislation and go from there. But we're working on it and more to come on it. That's it for
I
me.
appreciate that, Jim. I think once we have some more information on the process and, if we think we're going to need a consultant, we could either have a meeting with the select board to start discussing it, or maybe we'd even want to do a workshop with, Finance Committee and the Board of Assessors and bat it around. It does have some implications for how the tax rate is calculated. But, once we have more information, we'd definitely like to either, have a discussion with the select board as we move forward, or, do a little workshop along the way. So I'm open to either, whatever the other board members think.
Okay. So I'll report back with a memo, probably a joint memo from Dennis and I in the near future, once we narrow some of these things down and are able to give you, samples of the legislation that has passed.
Great, that'd be great. As I'm thinking ahead to our next meeting, which is the first week of March, Ben, if you're available, I'd like you to give an update on the school building process. I know you sent me an email saying you'd like to do that. So, and the same with you, Glenn, if you could give us a little update on the master plan process, where we're at, and how many people are participating. I think both of those 2 projects are very important to the future of the town, and it'd be great to get periodic updates.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, absolutely.
Any other comments or questions for Jim?
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other business anybody wants to bring up? Jim, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Motion a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Mark? Aye. Thank you, everybody.